everybody, welcome back to You Are Free TV. It is Tuesday, February 6th, 2024. The days are flying by. We have so much going on. And so I'm going to jump in here with my disclaimer. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is protected by the United States Constitution protecting free speech, as well as the Sullivan Act and reporting. It is not intended to bully or harass anyone, never to incite violence or hatred or lawlessness of any kind. It doesn't give legal, medical, or financial advice, and there are further disclaimers in the description below. So I always say thank you so much for supporting the channel. I want to say thank you to Marsha and Sarah and all my monthly supporters. You make it happen, and the more I can get monthly supporters in, the more I can know how many videos I can do per week, and so you are so appreciated. So we're going to jump in here with the news. I will mention my sponsor, c60evo.com. c60evo.com/YAFTV. Use the code YAFTV to get 10% off for the best C60 supplement out there, the ESS60 molecule made in the primary lab, really in the world, out of Houston, Texas. And they do the, of course, the incredible facial serum, which I love. And you can get the liquids as well as the capsules. I give away 2 bottles of capsules every month on the channel to supporters of the channel who get 15% off with a different code and link given to you. But you can get liquids as well. This is the MCT oil, great for workouts, great for getting that, you know, if you want to get that keto response, the MCT oil is really great. So there's my plug there, and you know, you can find all that below. So thanks for listening to that. So we have so much news to cover. I want to start, I actually want to start oddly by mentioning the death of Toby Keith. And he's only 62, born the same year as Victoria Nuland, who we'll be talking about a bunch in this channel, on this video tonight, and have been for quite a while. And, you know, he's 62, he dies of stomach cancer. And, you know, the whispers out there is that he did get the shots. And, you know, we all know, you know, we keep talking about the turbo cancers, and 18 months within getting diagnosed with stomach cancer, he has now passed away. With prayers for him. You know, one of my favorite quotes from Toby Keith was, "Never apologize for being patriotic." You know, he did the, he did a lot for trying to put forth, you know, the value of the USA and how important it is to support the country. And so it's very sad while we watch people continuously dying. You know, when we saw the Grammys the other night, horribly watched some of it, and all the Satanism, all of it, it's just so horrible what these people sacrifice and how they give themselves over to a machine for money, and the destruction of what we could do with each other in creating great culture and music versus the machine of the globalist owned and run music industry. Very sad. And so prayers to Toby Keith's family. I also want to put out there real quick is that Dr. Stella Emanuel, who I really like, she has such great, you know, vim and vigor. She's just so awesome. And she has the site Dr. Stella MD.com. I think it might be I think it's drstellamd.com, but I'll link it below. But she's doing a prayer wave every Wednesday night. I always love the prayer waves. Every Wednesday night, she's praying at 8 p.m., I think, Central Time. I think she's out of Houston, Texas, where she is praying for the election, praying for Trump, praying for, you know, the goodness to go forward. And she also has a prayer on there. And when I think of Toby Keith, I think of this, and I just think of so many others who have been subjected to the medical clot shots. Is she has a prayer also on her website where you can go and say this prayer, and it's really for a spiritual deliverance from the effects of the vaccine and what it meant to take these shots that are interrupting God's given DNA, and how to go into redemption around it. And people have such a hard time with redemption. I don't know what it is, but I think especially people who can't basically consider themselves as a worshiper of God. People who can't understand that they aren't God, but that they are made of God and from God, supposed to be like God. In order to do so, it requires redemption, right? And it requires the asking for forgiveness of sins. So she has a great prayer on there for that, as well as, incredible, ways to detox from the shots. And that's drstella.com. I think it might be Dr. Stella MD. I don't know why I'm screwing that up right now, but I will link it below so you'll get it right. But she also has great, I think every month or so she has these revivals on the ranch where she lives there outside of Houston, Texas, where you can go for free and attend and kind of, glob onto a giant, huge spiritual power there. So I recommend that as well. And I just felt compelled to tell that tonight. All right, so tonight we're going to talk about a couple things of activism. Then we're going to get into all the news, which is so much of it. Wow, it's like a flood. And so I want to just say, of course, Thursday we have the caucus coming in Nevada. We've got, the primary today, which the results still aren't out. But the primary, Trump's not even on the primary in Nevada because he went for the caucus, which he's going to win by a landslide. But it only happens if you get out and vote if you're in Nevada. So on Thursday, the 8th, you need to get out between 5 and 7:30 p.m., and be part of the Nevada caucus. And you can go to nv.donaldjtrump.com if you need details about where your specific caucus is at. It's all there. I would say go to chattafornevada.com because she's been doing great heavy lifting regarding the RNC, but her site has been corrupted as of today, but maybe it's back up by the time you see this video. So no worries about just going and giving it a try. I'll link it below. And so the fake primary, what they were saying beforehand was, well, you could go ahead and you could, they had these primary ballots that were just sent out, full mail-in primary ballots, total mail-in ballots. It was said that you could just vote none of the above for all of the people listed on the primary there. Nikki Haley, of course, trying to get some sort of clout for something that doesn't even matter. But that's a big fail, whatever it is. The big deal is the caucus on Thursday. So get out there if you're in Nevada and be part of it. And I'll link all of that to, ways to do that below. And the situation here is that you have Donald Trump meeting with Ronna McDaniel yesterday, I believe, in Florida at Mar-a-Lago, where basically they it seems like, came to an agreement that she would be in place until after the South Carolina primary, which is so interesting because the South Carolina primary is completely filled with tons of Bushites and Biden mega donors all giving tons of money to Nikki Haley. She's still going to lose, but tons of this money changing hands, making deals. I'll get into that a little bit in this video, but it's kind of the same old thing. It's the same old thing, the same old people. But it gets into Paul Ryan, it gets into the Romneys, all being part of a venture capital firm that's funding this. Out of, in South Carolina, been fundraising all across the country, Dallas, New York, everywhere, California. And so this is interesting that she's going to have to step down, says President Trump. And also that we have today, her top aide has resigned today. So that's a big win. That's a huge thing that we're seeing that Ronna McDaniel's top aide is stepping down and has resigned as of today. And so that's very interesting. And then I also want to put out there a couple more things before I jump into the meat, which is I wanted to mention this thing called MKRH syndrome. MKRH syndrome is very serious for the women who are going through it. And but we're getting some predictive programming out in the the world of movies, the cabal controlled movie predictive programming machine, where they're putting out a movie now called Fitting In, odd name. But the movie's about a woman who was born without a uterus and ovaries, born without any reproductive organs. And this is, as we look at what's going on with the shots, we look at what's going on with the harms, the infertility, all of it. Obviously, this would be a very odd and strange thing to have happen, MKRH syndrome. But they're putting it out there in predictive programming now, just like they did with other movies right before the CV outbreak about distancing, social distancing for health purposes. All of this they do prior to something they roll out. So is this what's coming with the next generation, or, as a result of the shots? MKRH syndrome, I'll link it below, where you're born without a uterus or ovaries. So that's disturbing to say the least, and horrifying. And, why is it, from the time I was reading Whitley Schreiber, way back when I was 18 or whatever, it was those aliens never had, they didn't have reproductive systems, and they didn't have digestive systems, right? They were I don't know how they survived, but they didn't have digestive systems or reproductive systems. And those are the things that they are destroying. Our gut biome informs our brain. Our reproduction allows us to reproduce as humanity. And so it's very interesting when we look at the larger picture. I'm not going to get into it too much today, but this movement towards humanity's awakening being really a God, centered and created situation going on within our galaxy and solar system to do with the photon belt, and how we are moving towards a major awakening that they are trying to thwart so hard, and to shut down humanity's ability to live, to even get there before it happens. But I'll cover that going forward. But we have also wanted to mention before the meet, CHD TV did a great job putting up a documentary regarding the basically the Biden administration has refused to acknowledge the situation of the neurotoxins within the fluoride industry in our drinking water, and how fluoride is a neurotoxin. This is, of course, hydrosilicic acid. And it's it comes out of industry. I think it comes out of the aluminum industry, as a byproduct. They put it in our water to poison us and dumb us down and bring our IQs down. You gotta filter your water. I like charcoal gravity-fed filters. There's Alexa Pure. There's Berkey. You can look them up, but you got to get it out. And so I'll link it below if you don't know yet about fluoride. Still, after all this time. If you're drinking your tap water, you got to stop. It's full of everything disgusting. All right, so moving on. Okay, another thing to do for action is we need people to get on to A3, the numeral 3, A3PAction.com, A3PAction.com. And this is Mike Davis. This is the Article 3 project, where at A3PAction.com you go straight to getting links on how to expose what's going on with Fani Willis, and to push this criminal probe. We have MTG coming in and trying to file a criminal referral regarding Fani Willis, her boyfriend, all of it. But it's come out now that it's up to about $3.8 million in misuse of federal funding. We know the COVID funding was going towards given to her married boyfriend and all of this. Well, if you want to defeat Fani Willis and everything she's doing to attack Trump down there in Georgia, you will go to A3PAction.com. You can fill out your, direct email or phone call, ways to connect directly and voice your complaint that you want this to go forward. And also, I would say 202-225-3121 for your representatives to basically come in and say, hey, I want you to directly make sure that MTG's criminal referral goes forward against Fani Willis down there in Georgia. Okay. And so before we move forward, I'm going to talk about Tucker Carlson, the Putin interview that's coming out soon. We're going to get into Victoria Nuland, the replacement of the Ukraine military head with the head of intelligence there that's done all the FEs in the Ukraine war. He's being installed. We'll get into that. We're going to get into a bunch of stuff, but I want to talk a little bit, tiny bit, about Mike Gill here for a second. And Mike Gill, I've been talking about him for months. He has put out all this information regarding the Pandora's box of $1 trillion in trafficking of children and drugs through the Congress-related cartel with cartel relations, literal cartel relations, out, based in New Hampshire, reaching into the government, all of it. And, I've been talking about him for a long time. And then I mentioned in my last video that there was this strange situation on Alex Jones with Ivan Raiklin, the former special ops guy who works closely with Mike Flynn. And I had said it was so strange that they said, well, if Trump was killed, it would be so great to get Mike Flynn in there, and it would be like even a bigger toppling of the deep state. It would be so amazing. And then we get, what do we have? Right after that, we have somebody named Mike Gill killed in D.C., murdered in his car in a supposed carjacking. And this just seems very, very strange. Very, very strange. Okay, so the Mike Gill who was killed in the carjacking in D.C. By somebody named Artel Cunningham, 28 years old, he was senior vice president for capital markets at the Housing Policy Council, okay, and he was the COO of Commodity Futures Trading Commission under Trump. And so this is a different Mike Gill, okay, but it sends a giant message, and it's a very strange coincidence that cannot be overlooked, okay, that somebody named Mike Gill, who's in housing, is and related to Trump and serving with Trump, is gunned down and dead. And we pray for that Mike Gill. Very, very sad for him and his family, and prayers go out to him, to him and to them. And yet then we have this situation with the other Mike Gill fighting for his life. And to me, for entertainment purposes only, this looks like a giant, massive message going out that Mike Gill, connection to Trump, with the Pandora box information and the $1 trillion trafficking situation, all the evidence there, being, a huge situation behind the scenes here. And when I mentioned Alex Jones and Ivan Raiklin and them coming back on last Saturday and saying, hey, we weren't saying to kill Trump. That's crazy town. We would never say that. We love Trump. They never re-brought up the stuff about Mike Flynn and how they mentioned Mike Flynn. They never re-brought up any of that. That was completely looked over. But I'm going to link below, and I did last time, but if you look at Mike Gill, the one who has been releasing the Pandora's box, I believe that Michelle Moore's channel now has been taken off YouTube. Very strange because it had been up there for so long. And there was this whole bribery scheme where they were trying to get the Mike Gill of Pandora's box to accept a $200 million payout to go away. He refused it. All kinds of players involved here, and basically gave the information to Mike Flynn and others, and they have all the information, and Trump has the information, and Mike Lindell has the information, and it's just a whole interesting thing, but I felt I needed to cover here. If you look on the video I'll link below with Carrie Cassidy, and even her portal has been disrupted a lot, I've noticed in the last few days, where you get Mike Gill saying, you admit, Carrie, that you also know that Flynn is a double agent, and she says, yes, I understand that. And Carrie Cassidy's all about white hats, and big ups to her. I have nothing against any of them, but I just feel like I need to point this out and mention it because nobody seems to be talking about it, and it needs to be mentioned as we see a Mike Gill connected to Trump and finance and housing, which the other Mike Gill was the head of a massive mortgage firm murdered. And to me, that ain't a coinky dink. Okay, I don't think that's a conspiracy theory. There's something going on with that. And so we're going to move on. So moving on from there, we got Tucker Carlson. This is going to move. I'm going to talk about Tucker for a second. Move into the move to get the head of intelligence, in charge of the Ukraine military. That's Victoria Nuland doing this. The connection between all these people with just somehow we have Ukrainian-based oligarch families seem to be running our entire country and rearranging what's going on for the globalist takeover. But let's get into Tucker Carlson here for a second. So with Tucker Carlson, if you haven't seen it, I'll link it below. He puts out like a 5-minute announcement that he is interviewing Putin, regardless of being threatened and having his emails and texts hacked by the Department of Justice under Biden and being basically threatened not to do it. He did anyway kind of secretly go over without announcing it to he went to Russia and he's in Moscow. He's saying, oh my God, it's so beautiful here. It's like more beautiful than anything in the United States. Like they're thriving. Okay, the Russians are doing amazing because now they have all the energy, all the trading, they have everything. They're going to BRICS and they're leaving, the United States is in massive decline. But what he had to say was that, he wants to force the issue out of that we need to talk to Vladimir Putin because we're only hearing one side of this war situation. And what are they saying, right? And there's all these talks on the other side about, there's going to be an FEFE. It could be a tactical nuke in the Red Sea, in the Mediterranean, something that won't quite hit Tel Aviv, but will topple enough, will cause enough mayhem to get us into this war with Iran, a fake FEFE to really push this off. But what Tucker Carlson had to say is, that we need to do this because basically there has been what is the complete reconfiguration of our country's policy. Okay, everything has changed. All our money went to Ukraine. All of our armaments are going to Ukraine. Our military is depleted, and all of the trade policies of our country and the world have been changed by this war in Ukraine that was propped up and built and designed by globalists. And he says we need to at least interview and hear from Putin and what his opinion and perspective is on this. So I'll link it below, but we're waiting for the video to come out. That's going to be, I think, quite important because this is right when that the U.S., Victoria Nuland, goes to Kiev. She's there in the middle of the night talking to CNN with just a folding card table and a microphone in the middle of it's freezing. And she's standing there in the middle of the night saying, we got to come and help Ukraine. And of course, they were talking about it all day in the Mayorkas failed attempt to get Mayorkas impeached. That failed in the House today. It was rejected. All of those jerks, Ken Buck's resigning, turf out Tom McClintock out of California, where those 5 or 6 guys that attacked the New York City police officers and got immediately released and then given plane tickets free to California. Well, good luck, Tom McClintock. You can get your cartel money and all of whatever's going on there with you, but turf him out for sure. And so that's important. It's very interesting to see what that interview is going to be like because we're hearing out of Bild, that newspaper out of Germany. They're saying that, or the publication, they're saying that Poland is definitely preparing for war. We're seeing it in Sweden, Germany, Latvia, all these exercises going on where there is a push for war. By the way, on the side, we're also hearing that in Mexico, they are doing military drills to prepare for Americans fleeing south the other way across the border. Okay, well, we hear all of this about Mayorkas, everything going on, that there is military drills going on in Mexico where Americans are running the other way. It makes a lot of sense. And so, okay, So back to this. So Bild says Poland is preparing for war. Sweden has said so. Germany is saying so. And that, Poland is meant to be kind of the human shield situation, kind of the zone that is separating the real war or the preparations for war with basically war with Russia. Okay, that's being said. And so when we look at this, it's kind of the Ukraine coup phase 2, what's coming next, because we got the head of the Department of Defense there. Remember when the Department of Defense after the Maidan coup was supposed to be Alexei Vindman, right? Him and his brother Yevgeny, the orphans from Little Odessa out there in Brooklyn. Well, Alexei Vindman was going to be the Secretary of Defense, okay, in Ukraine as an American citizen after the Maidan coup. Now he's running for, is it Senate or House? I think it's House in Virginia. He's running for government there in Virginia. Alexei Vindman, now retired. And this is really it's Yevgeny, his brother, okay, is now running. I think they're both lieutenant colonels. And Yevgeny is running. Alexei is still running Trident Corporation in Ukraine, which is a center for, gathering up all those munitions, everything that's being sent over there to be best utilized, and properly utilized, meaning with Victor Bout and who knows, they're literally, that's where all of this trafficking of all the weapons that are being used in all of these proxy assaults against U.S. bases. It's basically like, if you could... It's like the U.S. military is staging a giant, NATO and whoever, the globalist cartel, the cartel Babylon, staging this show of attacking the U.S. and each other with our own money and weapons. Okay, everything we left in Afghanistan, everything we're trafficking through Ukraine, all the money we give to the Houthis, all the money we give to everybody who hates us. It's basically a literal just scam to bring on World War III. And so when we look and move forward into what's going on with Budanov being, Victoria Nuland and her crowd installing Budanov now, via Zelensky, who is rapidly becoming a problem, not really somebody who can continue to stay in the mix, I would say. Budanov to become the head of the military over there. Now he is the head of the intelligence in Ukraine. He is the one who created all of the different FFs we saw throughout the Ukraine war so far. Everything that happened in Mariupol, all of the, the fake BOMBINGS, all of that was Budanov, okay? And he is the head of the secret police, well, basically intelligence, kind of, like would be the head of the CIA here or other groups that we don't even know the names of. Well, that's Budanov, and they're installing him to head the military now, and that's going against massive popular opinion. And so we have to wonder if this is about the next plan to execute a giant FF, okay, in Ukraine to bring about support for the bill, right? That ongoing, must fund the bill to get that $60 billion to Ukraine, $17 billion to Israel, and facilitate the continuation of the invasion into the United States. Well, there needs to be another escalation, and a lot of analysts are saying this will be a nuclear event. And it's been talked about for a long time that this could be a tactical nuke into either the Red Sea or the Mediterranean, and something that goes into the sea so that it's not big enough to destroy Israel, but it's large enough to create enough destruction that it guarantees the U.S. starting war with Iran, to be blamed on Iran, for there to be, a signature on the nuclear material, on the plutonium involved, that would come out of Iran. and that would be basically the way to know that Iran was the cause, when absolutely, no. But also it could be the situation with the nuclear power plant there that Russia has been controlling in Ukraine, and some sort of FF there that also throws this into action. And of course, you get this nebulous situation with the Wagner group all playing both sides, seem to be involved in both sides everywhere. They're with the Houthis, they're with everything going on in the bombings, in Syria and Iraq. This nebulous, Wagner group, right? All of them are interplayers. And when I talk about Putin, I'm not a Russophile, I'm not a Putin supporter. I believe that they all are interconnected, that there is a plan to destroy the United States. I believe that Russia is involved. I believe that United States deep state is involved. All the Trotskyites that are controlling the government, like Nuland et al., Blinken, all of them out of Little Odessa, that they're all interconnected to design this situation of ending what came out of Bretton Woods. The agreement was that the United States would be the police force for the world against what was best for the United States, give free military protection, for the West, with nothing back, all right, and at the same time destroy the economy of the United States over time. And it's all coming to pass. And so we're going to see what's going to happen with Poland being in the mix, just literally again being used once again to be this fodder for whatever's coming, all right? And we're seeing just as the DOJ, just as we see with the appeals court against Trump saying he has no immunity as a president, no presidential immunity, crazy town, right? We're seeing this all over the world. It's the same globalist plan. So as Tanya Chutkin puts out that, this thing about President Trump has no immunity, well, it's going to the Supreme Court. We'll see what happens. Of course, it could be used the other way towards Obama or Biden. But the reality is that it's not constitutional. And what we see it in Pakistan, where, we had Victoria Nuland being so central in the overthrow of Pakistan, and Imran Khan and his wife just sentenced to 14 years in prison a few days before the election. And of course, he's been forbidden to run because of being, forced to do so, to not do so by the courts there. Now, 14 years in prison. We're seeing Tusk and Poland, with Duda. He's against Duda. He's arresting people from the Populist Party there, from the government, from the prime minister, the MPs, arresting them. We're seeing it all over. Germany, the same thing. And while Europe's blowing up with this massive situation with the farming protests and revolts are combining with the populist groups as well. So it's like a huge fight, and we're all in it. We're all part of it. And get in the arena and do your part, because it is this is the time where everything's coalescing. And so it's so important to understand that. So with the desire to understand it more, I want to dig in a little more to Victoria Nuland and to try to get people to understand a bit, like, what's going on? Why is it these people controlling our government now? What's been going on? And we seem to have what is the combination of sort of a secret society, the bonesmen, the people out of Yale and Harvard, the people with the secret agreements, and the largest families of the cartel Babylon, in conjunction with this group out of Israel, out of Ukraine, oligarchs, but also families tied with the Nazis that came out of Ukraine, came out of Odessa, that area, Little Odessa there in New York City. All of this, these people are all interconnected with this globalist takeover of humanity. They're all tied into it. And so I want to just kind of remind people of Victoria Nuland. Again, she was born the same year as Toby Keith, who just died of stomach cancer. For entertainment purposes only, you got to wonder from the shots. And so Victoria Nuland, did she get the shots? Well, she's doing good. She's continuing to destroy countries wherever she goes, and she obviously was brought up to do so. And her family appears to have been basically had to flee, Tsarist Russia. Her grandfather, and this has to do with the Trotsky situation and the Trotskyites, the Marxists, who were trying to overthrow, the USSR, trying to dig their heels in deeper for a further push towards globalism. And so when we look at, this, when I look at people like Schumer, dual citizenship, we should never have any dual citizens allowed to be in government. And Schumer considers himself the highest ranking Jew in the USA. He said it himself. And Blinken, okay, these people all come from this same area of Ukraine. And it's just so interesting that they have a massive vendetta, okay, to claim this area again. I've been talking about it for over a couple of years and many, many months of this situation of the Arv Rev and reclaiming this area of the world and what it has to do with the rollout of the Antichrist. And I do believe it does have things to do with it. And so I'm going to get into Victoria Nuland here for a little bit. And so what's funny, this is very interesting. When I was looking up different things about her and researching, just re-going over things, I saw that the government site for history.gov, when it has to do with the State Department, they said that it has been, for looking up people's, their record in the government, what they're doing, it's been suspended since January 12th of this year. So for the last 3 weeks, it's been suspended because they're saying it's due to lack of funding that they can't keep putting up the credentials of all these State Department officials. Isn't that convenient? So interesting. And so let's get into it. So I'll link that below because that's funny. But, disgusting, but funny. So Nuland's family, and it's funny, Nuland, because their name wasn't that at all. Their names were basically Noodleman, which is interesting. The Noodlemans out of Odessa, okay, Ukraine, back then, Russia. And there was Mayor and Vichy Noodleman were her grandparents. And my understanding is that these are Trotsky allied people, and that it's very much interconnected with Blinken's family, very much interconnected with Bill Kristol. Going back to Tucker Carlson for a second, this situation of Bill Kristol, who basically said that if Tucker Carlson doesn't, he should be detained coming back into the United States. Bill Kristol out of Chicago, the mega billionaire who funds so much of the Democrats and also the rhinos. And this guy is saying, and he's again, Trotsky family, his literal, let me just get to it. Bill Kristol, the mega billionaire out of Chicago, is saying that Tucker Carlson should be detained, okay, coming back into the United States so that the State Department can determine what his motives are in interviewing Putin. Bill Kristol. And again, his father was a top Trotsky guy who literally was looting Russian oligarchs. Okay, he was one of the ones in charge of looting the Russian rich and also the Christians in Russia. Massive looting, kind of a George Soros style. That's Bill Kristol. Okay, kind of like the Bushes with the Nazis, the Soroses with the Nazis, the same kind of thing. We should detain Tucker Carlson until he basically confesses his Russian crimes, right? And so Kristol says, if we're having so much trouble with the white working class. This is a quote. This is in an interview from a while ago. He said, if we're having so much trouble with the white working class, why not bring in new Americans to change things? Okay, hence the open border invasion. That's Bill Kristol out of Chicago. And so, again, when we look at the interconnections of these people and this situation with these Odessians, this little Odessa there in Brooklyn, Staten Island, and the Vindman orphans, all of them interconnected. Schumer, all of them. Schumer, dual citizen. Uber, for entertainment purposes only, said to be very much connected, Mossad operative. And so these are our people. Blinken, his father, Soros, his stepfather, Maxwell, completely best friends with Robert Maxwell, Ghislaine's father, Jeffrey Epstein, interrelation there. All these people running these massive, controlling the world, controlling the scientists. And very interesting with Victoria Nuland's father, he was huge in Yale Medical University, the medical school at Yale. And again, this interconnection of medical ethics, Robert Maxwell, his publishing empire was so interconnected with actual medical journals, not just printing books. It was medical journals in control of them. We get the same thing with Nuland and her father, which we'll get into. Actually, I'll get into it now. Her father, Sherwin Noodleman, who became Nuland, Sherwin Noodleman, grew up in the USA in the Bronx and became a professor at Yale. He went, the College of Medicine. He was a history and he basically taught the history of medicine and bioethics, kind of scary. And he was born in 1930. And it's very interesting because in the 70s, he was so depressed. Okay, so in his 40s, he was so depressed that they recommended he get a lobotomy. Okay, so something was going on with Noodleman there, with Sherwin, and he, that wasn't his actual given name. It was a much more Russian, Ukrainian sounding name that I don't have at the top of my brain right now. But he basically got a ton of electroshock in the 1970s to deal with his depression, when he says that solved the problem. He wrote a bunch of books, all kinds of stuff, and then his best friend at Yale was Donald Kagan, okay, another university professor. Both of them said to be either skull and bones or connected through a fraternity, one of the powerful fraternities there in Yale. And so Donald Kagan was his best friend, and she, Victoria, Tori as they call her, or Toria, but Tori, she ends up marrying his son, Robert Kagan. And Robert Kagan is the one who co-founded the Project for the New American Century, okay, that has killed America, okay, neocon. So, Victoria Nuland, she's a Democrat. No, she's not. She has no party, no allegiance. It's just to the globalist order and the destruction of America and the rollout of it. And so Donald Kagan at Yale, she marries his son. And so here's just a little bit of background. So when you think Victoria Nuland, so she went to Choate, one of the most prestigious, I think JFK went there as well, but one of the most prestigious boarding schools you can go to in Connecticut. So she goes there, then she goes to Brown. She gets her degree in public policy. Brown, a huge ground for creating lifelong bureaucrats that, are deep state SESers, very Jewish Trotskyists, okay? And again, when I'm talking about Jewish, I mean the Arab Rev. I don't mean these people who really are Jewish. I mean the Zionist situation that's super uber connected with this area of Ukraine and Russia, and this attempt to overthrow the United States in conjunction with the monarchies of the world that seem to be toppling. We're watching now King Charles saying that he has cancer after getting his prostate surgery. Very interesting. Lloyd Austin with his prostate surgery. Kate Middleton with her surgery now out. What is it? Princess, what's her face? Another one, like Fergie. Like they're all just, ill. And we have to wonder if finally the Trotskyites might be overthrowing the monarchies and taking these people out. There's been the whispers of will Charles abdicate, to Prince William, all of this. It's all very interesting. So, okay, so she goes to Choate, then Brown. And right after college, she goes to the USSR. This is Victoria Nuland, Tory. She goes to the USSR and she works at a place in Odessa, just outside Odessa, what's called a pioneer camp called the Young Guard, right? And so we know all these interconnections of these Nazi families that, you can call them the Trotskyites, but they're really Nazi affiliated. And so she goes there after college. This would be in the early 80s, I guess. And so then she goes right into government, and she's right up there in APAC. She's right there into China, and she marries Robert Kagan, right? Again, Brookings Institution, the son of Donald Kagan out of Yale. Donald Kagan was a Lithuanian Jew who emigrated here to the U.S. and majored Trotskyite, and so then we get Robert Kagan also later becoming a advisor to John McCain in 2008, and he co-founded the project for the New American Century. Okay, and this is literally the plan that rolled out what was supposed to be the overthrowing of 7 Middle Eastern governments, within 7 years. All of this, both Victoria Nuland and Robert Kagan completely advised what was going on the George W. Bush under Cheney. So they're not Democrat or Republican. They're neocon globalists, cartel Babylon operatives installed permanently in our government, especially in the State Department. And so when you look at the project for New American Century, I can't do it now, but you can look at people like, oh gosh, there's so many white papers out there. There's so much that it covers everything about the destruction of the United States. Okay, we'll get into that in further videos. I've talked about it many times before, but I'll get back to that. So when we look at John Kerry, a bonesman, now being reassigned to the election of 2024, the election assigned to it, his Iranian connections, his bonesman connections, 322, the connection to the Bushes and Paul Ryan and the Romneys all funding Nikki Haley. All of this is unraveling. All of this is happening right now, okay? And John Podesta, what did he do the moment that John Kerry stepped down to pull off for entertainment purposes only what they're gonna try to do in this election? And I will just say the A word, or what they're going to try to do, okay, is what he's in charge of as a bonesman with George H.W., and the plan, okay, that they're going to try to roll out. John Podesta having been in charge of the wargaming of the 2020 election, all of it, okay? And John Podesta, the second he takes over the climate czar role, what does he do? He literally has Biden sign now this agreement to send all of our coal reserves to India. Okay, so they shut off the LNG. LNG, okay, that liquid natural gas is also how nitrogen fertilizer is made. That actually is used in all of the large farming, okay, not only in the United States, but across the world. So shutting that down here, shutting production down, killing millions of people's incomes. But on top of that, our energy. And now Podesta has put out this thing through Biden, the barely alive puppet, that now the coal reserves are going to go to India. And India and China are both building dozens of coal plants every month. Okay, it's just like giant, massive production of fossil fuels through those countries. Okay, and so this is kind of what we need to understand. So Victoria Nuland, going back to Tory, in the 90s, she's working with Yeltsin. She's in charge of U.S. policy in the USSR and the Caucasus, and she's, I just want to segue back there with John Kerry and what I said about being in charge. This whole thing with him, with Iran, all the meetings after Barack Obama got out of office, we saw John Kerry running around with Iranians everywhere. And of course, with Barack Obama, all the 1.7 billion in cash, all of this. Well, so they've got the direct line, right? They got the direct line there for what's going to happen. And of course, this whole situation of, being paid back for what Trump did to Soleimani. If you get what my drift is there. Okay, so now, since 2005, we have Nuland being, of course, she's been on the CFR for a while now, but now she's a permanent representative on the NATO Council since 2005. 2013, she becomes Assistant Secretary of State on European and Eurasian Affairs. And also during that time, when Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, she was the press secretary of the State Department for Hillary Clinton. Basically, she was running Hillary Clinton, okay? She was running Hillary Clinton, and she was the press secretary of the State Department during that time. And so, at this time, you're getting like West exec and, the Blinkens and all the Mossad ties, Schumer, everything. It's climbing into the White House. West exec is creeping in there. And West exec is like a mini version of McKinsey and Company. They're like a we topple regimes kind of firm, consultants. And that's Blinken in charge of that. And they're creeping into the White House. That's why they call it West exec for the West Wing. And so then we get, since 2021 under Biden, she's gotten the grand title of the Undersecretary of State for Foreign Affairs. And so, and I said she already had worked for Cheney in 2003, and then again with her husband, Robert Kagan, in the push of the rollout of the Project for the New American Century and what it means to invade the Middle East and then destroy America from within. And so I'm going to kind of run it down here. We were at 51 minutes, and sometimes I just talk too long. I'm just going to skip over and mention this situation with Nikki Haley again, because I'd mentioned it earlier. I wanted to mention specifically while we see this mega fundraising, and I'll get back more into Victoria Nuland and her history, more into the history of how this very clear situation that there is people with Nazi-related ancestors, okay, and massive Ukrainian ancestors, and a huge amount of them Jewish, being hugely running our government, okay, alongside old blue blood bonesmen, okay, or Jesuits, that seems to be at the center of this cabal. And so I'm gonna revisit that, okay. I wanted to mention, we see the Chilean former president killed today. He was Sebastian Piñera in Chile. The time when Chile was doing well before it then got taken over is now is doing crappy and awful. It was great just a couple of years ago. And now they're having a massive wildfire attack there. They're having a massive weather weapons attack on Chile. Hundreds dead, many hundreds missing. Very much one of these weather assault weapons events in Chile. And during this time, we see the former president, conservative president Sebastian Piñera, die in a helicopter crash in a lake. And he was supposedly the one piloting the helicopter and supposedly couldn't get the seatbelt off. 3 others were in the helicopter. They survived and were rescued. He was visiting a businessman named Jose Cox. Okay, so I'm sure there's more to that story that I will have to report coming up. But I'll end with this about the Nikki Haley stuff in South Carolina and her being funded by Bush, funding by all these same people, these AIPAC people, these the Bushes, the Bush Nazi cartel, who's involved. That's the Romneys. That's Paul Ryan. And there's something here called the Solomir Capital. So coming up to the South Carolina primary, she's making buku millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, tens and tens of millions of dollars at least, going around Dallas, New York, all these places in California, etc., to get all this money. Chicago with Bill Kristol, etc., to get all this money for Haley, the neocon, who supports all of this and is absolutely, she's out of McKinsey and Company. She is massive, we know, globalist, she's dangerous to the world, to the survival of the United States. And so Solomir Capital, and this is Laura Loomer who did the heavy lifting, loomer.com, I'll link it below. Solomir Capital, Taggart Romney is the co-founder. Paul Ryan is the executive director and chair for the partners, and they're funding this massively, okay? And we need to understand what's going on here behind the scenes. And Trump has said he will never accept any money from any of these Bushites, any of these rhinos or Democrat usurpers. He won't be beholden to them, and he will not be a part of. So that's very exciting. And Trump has also challenged Joe Biden today after his awful speech. Joe Biden couldn't even speak, but he was wearing a Ukraine lapel pin and a Ukrainian tie, basically saying, I support the American people, and that we have to give all this money to Ukraine. And it's just so disgusting and ridiculous. It'd be funny if it wasn't so awful on how much they are invading our country, killing our industry, killing our energy, toppling this nation. And so Trump came out and said, I want to debate Biden right now. I want to debate Biden immediately. And of course, Biden is like unable to even answer. He comes out of an ice cream shop once again. This guy, he has dementia, Alzheimer's. The worst thing you could do is possibly eat ice cream and put tons of sugar in your body. Alzheimer's is like diabetes 3. Like you just feed cancer, you feed Alzheimer's with eating a bunch of sugar. So they just keep pouring it into good old Uncle Pedo Joe. And his answer to Trump was, oh yeah, he has nothing better to do. I'm busy, I'm running the country. Lies upon lies. And so, so that's the news today from You Are Free TV. We have options to get active, to be literally what God intended us to be as the instruments we are meant to be as we move forward into this incredible photon belt of passing into God's next level for us. It's happening. They're trying to stop it. They're trying to stop it by destroying the world, and because they need to feed their God, which is Satan, and Satan expressed through an AI medium. And so we have people fighting against that, and we are fighting against it. So check out Dr. Stella Emanuel's great prayer wave for the election on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Central. I'll link it below. And again, prayer wave's ongoing. We are doing the work, and the world is responding. Humanity is waking up. Massive farmers and populists uniting across Europe. We're not even hearing about it here. Huge things happening. And so it is happening. Don't get dismayed or depressed for a second, because you know that humanity is awakening and that we are moving to the next level, and we are defeating Cartel Babylon no matter what they say. So they're going to do something, but our prayers stop so much. Look at how the convoy stopped the FEFs down at the border, just a few days ago. Look at how effective we are by doing this information warriorhood, right? Warriors for the Prince of Peace. So get out there, do your part. And thank you so much for your prayers here at the channel. Thanks so much for supporting the channel. And if you found something that was added value in this video and you want to help support the channel, there's ways to do so below. I appreciate you, and you are free. I'll see you next time.